I'm Betsy Singer, and I am a broadcast journalist with ABC 6 News in Rochester. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my job, what it entails, how I got here, why I do it, which I continue to ask myself sometimes. Why is it that you stay in this field? And some of the things that you need, what's important, and the people. So I'll take you through the newsroom. We'll go into the studio. And right now, we're going to not take that call. This being probably one of the most important tools any reporter or broadcast journalist needs, because nowadays your cell phone can be used not only for communication, but it can also be used as your camera. And we put an app on our phones now where we can go live in a newscast from our telephone. And if we have no professional gear, as long as we have our cell phone, as you know, making videos is so very easy, but with us, for our cell phone, we can just call into our control room, and I'll show you that in a minute as well, and broadcast live from our phones through the link and some of the technology that we have here at the station. But I also want my camera person, her name is Jordan Reed, and she typically does sports, to go ahead and take that camera and put it in the mirror so that, Jordan, we can see you. And this is an important part of my job. You have to be able to adapt to whatever it is that's needed. One day you may be a photographer. One day you may be a reporter and a photographer and shoot your own stuff. Another day you may be sitting on the anchor desk, or you'll be going live from the field. The beauty of this career is that it is never the same every single day. I shouldn't say never. It's usually not the same every day. Number one, news changes constantly. And although we're reporting on COVID-19 a lot these days and some of the racial tensions, news changes every single day. I go on vacation for an entire week and I come back and I don't have my desk piled up with stuff. Right now I'm getting ready, obviously, hair and makeup, getting ready to interview a federal senator who is going to be in Washington, D.C., and we're going to talk about education amidst COVID. This is my earpiece, and I plug into the set in the studio so that I can talk to my producer who's on another end of the building, and they're able to talk to me live during the newscasts and let me know if we are breaking into programming because the president's ready to speak or the governor's taking a news conference or something like that. So let's go into the studio and I'll show you a little bit more of what I do on the anchor desk. So here we are in the studio. And like I said, I wanted to show you about my earpiece that I just put in. So I'm going to plug it in to the set right here, and that will allow me to hear whatever my producer or the director or the audio person has to say to me from a completely different part of the building. As we get ready for a newscast, I run my own teleprompter. So right here at the bottom, looks like a gas pedal. And if you look at the camera here, I am able to read the teleprompter. Right now we have the 5 o'clock news prompted, as we call it, and these are our news stories. So this would be something that I would deliver on the news. An ABC 6 News poll conducted by Survey USA shows President Trump's chances of winning Minnesota will be a challenge. So when it looks like we are just looking at you at home through the camera, we're actually reading a teleprompter. With that said, I have some questions here that I need to answer so that you know a little bit more about what it is I do and why I do it. My producer, Sally, is going to sit down with me and she's actually going to interview me, ask me some of these questions, and hopefully give you a better understanding of this field. So this is my producer, Sally. Sally started almost a year ago, right around a year now. Yeah. And Sally produces my 6:30 newscast. And our 6:30 is a little bit different than other newscasts, where it's not like we just deliver news stories of the day. What we do is Sally and I communicate a lot through our phones. We talk about interviews that have been emailed to us. People call us or text us and let us know that today, a senator is willing to do a Zoom interview with us. So we'll do that ahead of time, pre-recorded. Sally usually sets up the Zoom and the time, and then will let me know, and then I'll kind of do some of the background research, whatever the topic is, and then come in studio, and Sally talks to me through my ear, and we interview.
So if I want to get into this field, what kind of skills would I need?
Skills that we need for this field are supposed to be good communication skills. And we don't have the best communication skills, whatever your field is, but even in communications, we sometimes don't tell people in the newsroom, a reporter, this is what we need for 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. We just assume that they're going to know, so we don't communicate that well. Attention to detail is very important. I'm not very good at attention to detail. I'm not the best communicator. So that's why having good producers who fill in those gaps that I'm not so good at is very helpful. But being able to pay attention to detail, knowing that talking to producers, talking to the assignment editor, and there's a whole lot of different positions inside a newsroom. Just being a news anchor happens to be the one that I'm in and in front of the camera. Something that I tell my children, who are 14 and 16 right now, is that English and history are very, very important for this field. Math is great if you're going to be an engineer. I was not good at math, hence I'm not an engineer. So getting into this field was appealing to me because when I was young, thought being on TV was going to be cool. After you're in it for a while, you realize it is full of a lot of different things. Being cool, not so much important anymore.
You know, if they're just starting out as a reporter and they really want to make their way up to, let's say, being an anchor, what can they do to advance?
Be willing to do more, work hard, and be willing to fill in wherever is necessary. Somebody who comes in with an 8 to 5 slot and they're a reporter and that's all they want to do, your chances for advancement are going to be this big. Because we need people to work on weekends, we need people to be on call, we need people to work at night, early mornings, 4 a.m., starting out on morning shifts is what a lot of people do straight out of college. So you have to be willing to be flexible and to do something that might be uncomfortable. One of the first things that ever made me uncomfortable was covering a Louis Farrakhan event. Louis Farrakhan is a very controversial Muslim figure in this country. And in order to go there and cover that as a young reporter, I had to be willing to be frisked. And at 22 years old, I was very uncomfortable with that. But they weren't going to let me in if I didn't. And so I had to go into a different room. I had to let strangers frisk me. And I think what they were basically looking for was any private recording devices on me. So it was just a pat down like you get at an airport, and I was allowed in. And because other people at the station weren't willing to cover any Louis Farrakhan events because of this, I moved up and I was given more opportunities to cover other things because of that. And that was really important for me starting out. Let's go in the newsroom. So as we come out of the studio, I'm going to show you what the newsroom looks like and talk to some of the people who are in it. Right now we have Sydney, who's a producer, and she's, go ahead and wave. Oh, don't. Jenny. And see, and a lot of times the folks behind the camera are behind the camera because they want to stay behind the camera. So I won't make Jenny say anything. Jenny's our executive producer, and she is talking with Sydney right now about some of the content that we have going into our newscasts today. Coming in, we have Miguel, who is working on a story today. I'm going to sit by you so that my mic can pick it up. Can you tell me what it is that you're working on and what you're looking at?
We have a new poll that was released today, ABC6 News poll conducted by Survey USA, and it shows where Minnesotans seem to be leaning into the presidential race. And right now it seems that Joe Biden appears to be leading by about 9 points, and President Trump is behind on that. But obviously a lot can still change because in the last election, as we saw with Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, he swung those states red. So he's hoping to do that with Minnesota. And he actually vowed to say that if he can win Minnesota, he'd have a second term in the White House. So,
Do you like politics?
I do like politics, but sometimes it gets very overwhelming, of course, because there's a lot of things going on.
When you were in school, did you think, politics is something I would like to cover as a reporter?
Not at all. I just kind of got thrown into it, but then it was kind of exciting to be that person to tell people what was going on. And obviously we have the caucuses happening nearby and a lot of candidates stopping by our state, so that's been pretty exciting.
As a reporter, something that is very important is not only to know a lot of different aspects of being a reporter, but it also requires you to know a lot about different subjects, from politics, healthcare, education, farming and agriculture, business. You get thrown a lot of stories that you're not an expert on.
Mm-hmm.
You hate it or do you love it?
It's challenging, it's scary, but as a journalist, you want to walk out of the door learning something new. So it is scary, but it's rewarding for sure.
Thank you, Miguel. All right, and then over here we have Devin, and Devin is working on a story. He is a reporter for us as well. I need you to tell me, please, what story you're working on.
Yeah, so the story I'm working on for today is about 125 Live, and they're launching their Learning Pod programs. So it's kind of like a thing with distance learning. Parents can drop off their kids there, and they get tutoring help with math and reading. So
nice.
Pretty cool stuff.
How long? It's like an after-school program? Or is it during the day?
It's during the day. It's every single Wednesday, and today was the first day for it, and it runs from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
And they have, because 125 Live is our senior center, do they have volunteers then who are seniors who are helping the kids?
They do not, because they don't want cross-contamination with the seniors and then also the kids. So really the people that are only working there are the tutors, and then some of the volunteers that choose to be there that are kind of around, just kind of adult age.
How did we know about this story?
I've known about it for like a few weeks now, and then pretty much, I just kind of...
Did you pitch it?
I did, yes. And then I kind of learned that, it was launching today, and I was just like, okay, let's go to it, let's see what happens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and then behind us is Stephen. Stephen is our editor, and I know, Stephen, that from talking with you, a lot of times the video that you edit, especially if it's disturbing video, it's stuff that you have to watch over and over again. So what we're doing is telling high school students a little bit about a newsroom and the different positions in here. What's something that you love and that you hate about this job?
What I love is just I get to visually put together a story. So producer, anchor, whoever writes it, and then I will find the video to match the script and tell that story visually. What I really don't like is, like Betsy was saying, just the really hard video to watch and just seeing it over and over.
George Floyd?
Yeah, George Floyd. I've seen that over and over and over.
And I've never watched it. And even though I do the stories on the air, I don't have to look at the video. And you do every day, and you cut it for different newscasts. And so it can be pretty daunting.
Yeah, it can.
But you've been here a while. How long have you been here?
Almost 8 years now, I think.
Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does a little bit. It doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Well, thank you for helping me. And then we'll come over by Sally, who is working on our 6:30 tonight. And what I wanted to show people is the actual rundown. So this is the software system. And over here are the slugs. And so it looks like we have House Committee COVID. What is that?
So here, I'll go ahead and click on it. It's a story, and we have different formats that we put stories in, and it's basically talking about the Minnesota State House Committee, talking about the pandemic, and I know there's going to be another special session soon. So
Our special session at the state legislature?
yeah.
Because they have to approve our peacetime emergency.
Yep. So this is just kind of a rough draft at this time of the day. Our show is at 6:30, so at this time it's
And anything that Sally writes in these scripts here ends up showing up on my teleprompter.
Yep.
So this is where it comes together, but to come on the air
Yeah.
is in the studio.
Yep.
And then behind Sally is Sydney, and we saw Sydney a little bit earlier. Sydney, talk to me about your day. You've taken on not just one newscast, but now, and we've talked about this in the video, you have to be willing to take on more responsibilities because in COVID, our staff has shrunk. And
Right.
so doing the 5 and the 6, what is it that we're leading with? And producing 2 newscasts, you have to make them different. They can't be the same.
So right now the 5 and 6 o'clock open. So our lead story today is a Hubbard exclusive poll on the Minnesota voters and how they're leaning towards Biden and Trump.
Hubbard exclusive, meaning Hubbard is the
ABC 6
company
News exclusive.
that owns us.
So then depending on the day, sometimes I'll have a little more to work with, but I just go down my rundowns, try to make different formatting, different timing, different writing. So usually in the 6 o'clock I have sports, which makes it different enough, but really just depending on the day, I look at them side by side and, see what needs to be tweaked and whatnot. And in the 6 o'clock I have 2 anchors, so that's a totally different story because I have 2 different people to write for, so.
We have a reporter out in the field right now. Jackie is working on a fire. What is
Yes.
it that we know about the fire? Has she communicated with you? Because communication is key.
Right. I have not heard from her yet, but I can pull up what we do know. So we have a photo here, and then we also have some smoke that we could see from our parking lot. So right now we just know it's a house fire, and it sounds like it's just in the garage area, but I haven't heard anything as far as injuries or whatnot. So hopefully it's not too bad, but
Are you planning on having her live out there tonight?
as far as I know, I think we are, but that could change. So
At this point, because it was as big as it was, and we are able to see the house, it might be worth a live.
right.
Because at 5 o'clock, it'll still be light enough to see stuff behind her.
Yeah.
So let's
I'll have to communicate with her.
and figure out whether we can do
Right.
that or not. Okay. And Sydney also has to talk to, as we saw, Jenny, who's our executive producer, but also something very important is not just communicating with our reporters who are out in the field and our photographers, but Jennifer Bredow is our assignment editor. And what Jennifer does is this is considered the heart of the newsroom. This is where everything comes in as far as information. And the stories before this fire happened today, what was the big story that was probably going to lead our newscast, which probably won't now? And we have to hear that there's a scanner behind her because we constantly monitor the scanners.
Really, the big story of the day was the new survey that came out in Minnesota that Hubbard and Survey USA put out that Biden is actually leading Trump in Minnesota by 9 points.
By 9 points, and that's bigger than where it was even a week ago because it was, at one point, we were down to like a 4-point difference, and now 9. So that would typically lead our newscast.
Very much so.
And so Devin was saying that he had put a story, not together, but he pitched a story, and this is something that he's been wanting to do for weeks. So that's pretty typical too. Reporters will come up with a story idea, but they don't necessarily get to do it that day.
Right.
So explain that a little bit.
It depends on the big news of the day, and it's always good to be working on stories in advance, getting interviews lined up, and that's really helpful when there are days that we struggle a little bit, and then it helps to kind of have that fallback. And we've already been making these contacts, and we've already got that kind of in the bag, so it's something that we can really rely on on tough days.
On tough days, yeah. Because sometimes it's a slow news day, and it's not like we ever make up news, but it feels like it some days. Behind her is the assignment board, and we used to put who was working on what story. Now, you pretty much do it all in the computer and then send that out to everyone. So then we know what reporter's covering what. Thank you. Come with me into the control room, because while that is the heart of the newsroom, this is the brain of the operation. And we have Chelsea, who is our director. And if you don't mind, so that we can hear you, I'm making a video for students who cannot, right now because of COVID, job shadow.
Okay.
So it's a video about what we're doing. I call this the brain of the TV station because everything technically happens in this area. If you could, Chelsea, explain what you do and how you get this on the air.
Cool.
And loud.
Yeah. So we have our switcher here. These are all the buttons that I can use to pop up different cameras or get the show ready to go, so I can then pop up what you'll see on TV. So right now we'd be seeing Chris if he was there. And then I can also get the video ready, but I don't have any of that ready right now.
Your scripts,
Yeah, I don't have any scripts right now either.
but producers.
But the producer is the one who will give me my scripts so that then I can get that ready for the show. And with those scripts, I then reflect what the producer wanted on air to present to everyone.
When we have a interview coming up like we do today, we'll come in and we'll show you actually doing some of that. And then when we have the newscast going, coming in to see what happens in this room is much more exciting, much more interesting, and much more important, I think, than what we do in the studio. Because what we do in the studio is present. Here's where the real work happens.
3, 2, 1.
Childcare has been a huge issue amidst this pandemic, something that Senator Tina Smith has been working very hard on in Washington, D.C. Senator Smith, you had introduced and the House had voted on the Childcare is Essential, the Childcare is Essential Act, and that passed in one chamber. It did not pass in the other, and that must have been pretty disappointing. Something I didn't talk about is in a news station, the different departments that there are. We have not just the news department, but taking a look at Chelsea, that's called our production department. And in our production department, we have directors, audio operators, the production manager. We used to have studio camera operators. Now everything's robotic. So Chelsea, our director, punches everything up from right there in the control room. And we don't have people standing behind cameras and moving the cameras during an actual newscast. We also have a sales department. We have a sales department, they go out and sell our advertising, and a creative services department who puts together all of our special promotions. So if we are promoting Relay for Life and the station is a sponsor, creative services will make the commercials for that. Or they work with our account executives, our salespeople, and they go out to various businesses, our clients, who buy airtime, and then creative services puts together those commercials. So working in a television station isn't just what you see at home and the anchor presenting the news or a reporter presenting a story. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I think that's very, very important because you can get into this field and you don't have to be an on-air person. There are a lot of different positions that you could pursue and work in broadcast television. I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of me in case you have any questions. Email is always best, and my email address is B as in Betsy, Singer, S-I-N-G-E-R, at KAALTV.com. So it's bsinger at KAALTV.com. I hope that this has helped explain a little bit of what it is that I do, why I do it, and if it is something that you're interested in after COVID is less of a threat, I'll bring you into the studio and you can come in and see for yourself how it all works.